Welcome back, you lovely people. In today's video, I want to talk about some on-chain analytics that I've been finding particularly interesting. But before we do that, let's have a look at the price. Here's our chart we've been mostly using. We're up 0.75% today, just under $32,500. And I've added in this downward sloping resistance. A lot of people are watching. And are we breaking it to the upside? And therefore, we're going to be heading on path 2. That is a possibility. It's looking more likely at the moment, but we can still fail, come to the downside, take out the low. This would scare everybody. The bears would get really excited. The bulls would capitulate, many of them, and then I would expect us to come up into our launchpad zone. So both scenarios certainly still on the table. And both could still involve some sideways movement. So be prepared for all eventualities. I've certainly had a lot of people getting frustrated or perhaps concerned that we're not still in the bull market. So how do we ascertain that we are still in the bull market? Well, our primary driver is the halving model. The Bitcoin halving cycle is very, very clear. From the halving in 2012, we had a double wave into a blow off top. Halving in 2016, we had a much smoother wave into the blow off top, but still with a mid-cycle shakeout. And in 2020, we've had the first wave, but it had a rounded top. Now we're having a long consolidation, and we fully expect that when we come out of here, then we're heading up to our blow off top later this year. Some models showing into next year, but we will be monitoring it very closely, of course. How now how else can we ascertain that we're still in the bull market? Well, that's where we can use our on-chain analytics. Bitcoin is a public, transparent ledger. It means that we can see what is happening. It means that we have loads of data, and some people are perhaps concerned about that in terms of privacy, but it is a feature rather than a bug. If Bitcoin is trying to become global reserve currency, is trying to become the foundational layer for the new financial system, to be the perfect, pristine collateral for all financial transactions, then it is certainly going to be very, very handy for all of the world's problems. If we have that public, transparent ledger, it's going to be impossible for it to be manipulated, and it's going to be impossible for those in power to manipulate the monetary system and their policies for their own benefit. So Bitcoin is the ray of hope. If you want full privacy on your transactions, then there are options like Monero, like Pirate Chain, and some others. So have a look at them. But it also gives us our on-chain analytics. We can see what is happening, and that's very interesting. It can help us with our decision making. So the first chart that I found, which I really like, is essentially the number of new users coming onto the network. And you can see the trend since inception to now. It's been going up. We had this massive spike in 2017. We did have the spikes in 2013 with the double wave. This one was much bigger. And even though we're having our mid-cycle shakeout, then the number of new users is still going up. That's quite an anomaly, because you can see in 2013, during the double wave, and the users went down between the first wave and the second wave. So I see this as incredibly, incredibly bullish. And look at how high the spike was in 2017 compared to 2013 and where we are now. We have still a long, long way to go in this bull market. This is showing us adoption, and just think about what the adoption is going to be as we start passing $100,000. So I expect this to continue to spike up, especially as the price starts moving up again. Another longer term chart is this one from William Clemente. This is our illiquid supply of Bitcoin. That means Bitcoin which has not moved for a long time, long-term holders, and we don't expect it to move. And what it's showing, again, since inception to now, the volume of this illiquid supply is rising and rising and rising. and it's actually around 13 to 14 million Bitcoin. We know there's about 18.5 million that have been mined, 21 in total, and we already have 13 to 14 Bitcoin that are in the hands of long-term holders and not moving. This is what causes the price of Bitcoin to go up. Essentially, we are in a continual supply shock. We're continually short of supply, and as demand increases, therefore the price has to increase. So expect this to continue. After all, once you have your Bitcoin, who really wants to get rid of it? You're probably going to have to pay a much higher price to buy it back. So that is what causes the price of Bitcoin to go up over the past 12 years. And then if we're looking at some shorter term metrics to see exactly where we are in this cycle, this is our supply held with supply held by entities with a balance of 1,000 to 10,000 Bitcoin. These are generally known as our whales. This is really important because they move the market. And their supply is in the blue line. On the blue line, you can see as the price was rising in the early part of this year, then they were accumulating, and the whales started to sell just before the peak. We had our rounded top, and just before we got there, whales had started to sell and sold all the way through the rounded top, and then sold all the way through the capitulation. Since our first capitulation, they've been accumulating. See the trend of this line, it's starting to go up again, and over the past couple of weeks, we've really started to go up. So this is starting to look very much like when the price is about to go up. And you see in the comments when you're looking at this data, again, you see the frustration in people because they're asking why the price isn't going up immediately when they want it to. And these actions take some time to filter through. These entities, you know, they are buying discreetly. They don't want to move the market too much, but they are very much adding to their holdings. And once that has fully filtered through into the market, that can take weeks or months to have an impact, but it certainly will have an impact. You can see on the longer term view what impact this has. So this is another interesting data point, and this is the exchange inflow and outflow. When the bars go green, that is when there is inflow to exchanges, Bitcoin being sent to exchanges. Bitcoin, of course, will be sent to exchanges to be sold more often than not, and Bitcoin will be withdrawn from exchanges to put into cold storage. So again, when we had this massive area of red, and that was pretty much for the second half of this year, all the way through to the beginning of May, to our sell-off, and that was Bitcoin being taken off of exchanges. As the price started to come off, basically from the peak all the way through our capitulations, then a lot of Bitcoin was coming onto exchanges, of course, to be sold, driving the price down. And then over the past couple of weeks, we started to see that go red again. And, you know, just like when this started to go red over here in August, September, we still had a final capitulation and then a lot of sideways movement. But eventually, once this really works its way into the market, it causes a very, very extreme supply squeeze. And that is when at the end of last year, October, November, let's have a look what happened. Let me zoom in. So let's get these dates here. So in the middle of August, then this turned negative, as in Bitcoin was being taken off exchanges. So middle of August was around here, Bitcoin being taken off exchanges in all of this period here, but it still took up to the end of October for this to have a serious impact. But when it did have a serious impact, the price quickly went from 10,000 to 60+ thousand a 500% return. So that's why we can't be sure if the price is going to go up tomorrow, and we can't be sure that we're not going to have one final capitulation, but we are fairly sure, 99% sure, that Bitcoin's been taken off exchanges, whales are accumulating, Bitcoin is becoming a liquid, and that is all in preparation for the next leg up in our bull market. And I want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes from the B word yesterday, or my favorite quote. Jack Dorsey was asked what his hope is for Bitcoin, and he said it is to create world peace. I said it absolutely will. And then, of course, you always have some people jumping in, and I made it very clear that I'm not being sarcastic. I do expect Bitcoin to achieve this mission, and I do expect the world to become a lot more peaceful than it is today when Bitcoin makes further progress on its mission. So thank you for tuning in and supporting, and I'll talk to you soon.